Thank you for listening to Oh My God, What the Fuck Bible, a new, much funnier translation of the entire Hebrew Bible written by me, David Tuckman. I'm coming to you from my living room, slickly edited over some room tone to make it sound like I'm whispering to you before the show. If this is your first time listening, don't worry. We just started Exodus, so you can jump right in. If catching up first is more your thing, you can try the first 4 Just the Bible Bits episodes of the show, which will speed through all of Genesis. Or you can listen to the massive playlist on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/OMGWTFBIBLE. Every month on the show, a guest joins me at a live event somewhere on Earth to read a portion of the Hebrew Bible while I make fun of it. Then I release it in weekly podcasts. You're listening to episode 23.4, the final installment of Shemot, or Names, which is what Jews call the first portion in the book of Exodus. My reader this time around is Mordechai Levovitz, Executive Director of Jewish Queer Youth. The next installment will start the next reading, called Va'era in Hebrew, and will be out in a week. This time around, Moshe confronts the Pharaoh and things don't go well. If you enjoy this show and have something you'd like to share, drop me a line at omgwtfbible@gmail.com. You might also want to consider signing up for the mailing list by clicking on the link in the rightmost column on omgwtfbible.com. If you like the podcast, please rate and review it in the iTunes store. It only takes a minute and really helps. Now, the recap. Previously, in the Bible, God created literally everything, including a guy named Yaakov, who changed his name to Yisrael and had a ton of children. They all became enslaved in Egypt until God remembered and decided to save them. Enjoy the show. For thousands of years, we've been under the impression the Bible was meant to be taken seriously. Finally, a new translation that'll change all that. This is Oh My God, What the Fuck Bible.
Reach out, touch faith.
Chapter 11, in which Moshe and Aaron meet an initial roadblock, Exodus 5:1 to 5:5.
After Moshe and Aaron went to Paro, this is what Yehovah Yisrael's Elohim said. Send my nation and let them have a festival to me in the desert.
That's not what he said at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Who is Yehovah?
Good question.
Why should I listen to him and send Yisrael? Paro said. I don't know Yehovah. Also,
I don't know a Yehovah.
I don't know any of you. Why are you even here? Also, I'm not going to send Yisrael. The Elohim of the Hebrews called on us, they said to Paro.
Well, la-di-da.
Please let us go on a 3-day journey into the desert. We'll sacrifice to Yehovah our Elohim so he doesn't attack us with plague or sword.
Oh.
Why would Moshe and Aaron disrupt the nation's work? The king of Mitzrayim said. Go to your own burdens.
Go to your own burdens is the biblical equivalent of mind your own business.
There are so many of them now. You want them to stop working?
Yeah. That's chapter 11. Chapter 12, in which things get even worse for the slave. Exodus 5:6 to 5:21. This is the last one. Bring us home, Mordechai.
Don't give the people straw to make their bricks like you did yesterday and the day before. Paro commanded his slave drivers and guards that day.
Cool.
Now they'll have to gather their own straw. But they have to make the same number of bricks as yesterday. Don't reduce it. They are lazy. That's why they're crying out and asking to leave and sacrifice to their Elohim. Make their men work harder, and they'll do it. Don't listen to their lying words.
Oh, well, God did say this would happen, so.
Yes, this is like he's like the first Republican.
Yeah. The slaves are lazy.
They're lazy. They're lazy.
That's why they want to
They're
break.
not entitled to free stuff for their straw. It's terrible. Right. The nation's slave drivers and guards left. Paro said, I won't give you straw anymore.
Collective gasp.
You've got to go and get straw wherever because your workload hasn't been reduced a single drop. The nation scattered throughout Mitzrayim to gather straw. Finish today's work. You must work as though you had straw, the driver said, urgent. The guards of the sons of Israel, who had been appointed by Paro's slave drivers, were beaten. Ooh. Why didn't you fill your orders of bricks like yesterday?
Oh.
Yesterday should have matched today. This is like, what's that movie about slavery in America?
Ten Commandments?
That new one.
The
one that won the Oscar.
12 Years a Slave.
Yes, yes.
That's what.
Right.
This is what they based it on.
Totally. The sons of Yisrael's guards came to Paro. Why do you treat your slaves this way, they shouted.
Shoot it to power, baby.
You don't give your slaves straw, but you tell us make bricks? Your slaves are being beaten. You have sinned on your nation. You are lazy, Paro said. Lazy! That's why you're asking me to leave and sacrifice to Jehovah.
This guy's an asshole.
Now get to work. You won't be given any straw, but you'll still need to make the same amount of bricks. The sons of Israel saw how screwed they were when they said, do not diminish your daily tally of bricks. The guards found Moshe and Aaron waiting for them when they left Paro. May Jehovah look upon you and judge you, the guard said. You've soured our scent in Paro's eyes and his slaves' eyes.
Mixed metaphor. You don't smell with your eyes. Come on, Torah.
You've put a sword in their hands to kill us.
And that is chapter 12. Thank you, Mordechai. Have a drink. Your voice must be tired. Let's give it up for Mordechai. That's chapter Shemot. So, you've noticed I'm calling this one names. The nomenclature of how we name the books and the parshiot comes from the first word or so. In the English, it's more thematic. But when you use the first word or so, it's more of a non sequitur. So that story was called Names. Sure.
Okay.
Now we come to a section of the show called the Devar Torah. Devar Torah literally means Torah word. So I'm going to ask you, Mordechai, what is your Devar Torah? Could you sum up this entire parsha into one word?
Oh, wow. One word?
One word.
Oh, bitchiness. No. I wouldn't say bitchiness. I would say hesitance. There's a lot of hesitance.
Yes.
There's hesitance kind of at every step of the way.
Yeah.
Even Paro seemed hesitant. There's just lack of a certain sense of being sure, having plans not really work out the way, saying one thing and doing another.
Yeah.
Just a lot of hesitance.
I like it. Interesting.
Yeah. If you have to ask for one word, although I don't like questions that are like, give me one word.
Give me one word. Well, I mean, there's a Devar Torah. You have to have a Devar Torah.
But that's not one word. Devar Torah is not. That's like in your like super shul when the Devar
Exactly.
Torah is just one word.
The rabbi gets up.
Yeah. Yeah, like good Shabbos, hesitance.
Everyone drink.
And then
L'chaim.
Kiddush. Yes. That's your fantasy show.
That's my fantasy
Well, we
show.
started out like creating like your fantasy ritual. Maybe that would
Yes,
be
we were
it.
talking about that before. My fantasy ritual, if I had a fantasy service, every single prayer and every sermon would be one word. You'd be done in 5 minutes.
It's true. I think, I'm always left with every time I read a literal-ish translation of the Bible,
Yes.
How much it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it doesn't, no, and it's true, it really does. And the idea that anybody can be a literalist
Yes.
is absurd.
Right.
It's absurd. It's obviously, it must be taken in a certain sense of a metaphor and understanding. It cannot. It doesn't make any sense.
No.
It's just non sequitur
It's
after
poorly
non
written.
sequitur. It does. I mean, this is just ridiculous. You cannot understand it on face value. It's
No.
just impossible as an adult. Maybe as a child.
Well, that's why you learn.
Right. But there's right. Yeah, and that's really what we do.
Exactly. My Devar Torah, my Torah word was calling,
Okay.
or like being called to something, because this is cool because the last half of Genesis, or in the beginning, is very much a hero's quest. But this is even like Moses is Luke Skywalker. It's great. He's being called like. This parsha is the call to adventure, and like him leaving his home, not having a home because he kills the guy. His home is destroyed. There's a lot of hesitance during the call to adventure. Probably a little bit too much, lengthening the story because God gets a little. You wind that guy up, he's going to talk for hours. I don't want to bump into God at a party.
Is Aaron Han Solo?
Aaron is Yeah.
Okay,
He's just in it for the money.
Who's Chewbacca?
Chewbacca is Joshua.
Oh, well, really?
The staff, maybe.
All right.
I don't know. There aren't enough characters. I wish there was a Chewbacca.
There should be kind of like a Star Wars version of the Bible. That
I would
be
love to
cool.
watch that.
That would be awesome.
Well, Battlestar Galactica is pretty biblical too.
Yeah.
That's like kind of the like the Jews wandering in the desert, the Galactica searching for the promised planet.
Mm-hmm.
That's my Devar Torah. But do you have any before we finish up, before we talk about, before we close this thing out? Do you have any final thoughts about this parsha? It's weird switching gears to this because when there is less that we read, it's easier to find a thematic string to tie it all up. But a lot happened in this. You did seem a little bit disturbed by some of the stuff that we read, beyond me saying that God was pissed.
Yeah, I don't know why that bothered.
Was there anything new to you that you read in this, or that you want to take away?
Well, certainly, I think that the that little chapter that happens right after Moses is supposed to be going into Mitzrayim,
circumcision thing.
Right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden God attacks him.
Yes.
And then Zipporah quickly circumcises their son. I mean, I think that I vaguely remember that, and I'm sure there are many Dvar Torahs on that chapter, and I'm sure the Talmud and Rashi probably has a field day with that. But
And we'll do you.
Yeah, but
That was Russian. What just happened?
right. Yeah, I don't know, whatever. It struck me how much that stood out.
Yeah.
It really. I
It's
mean,
really- and it's
that
like-
really doesn't make any.
It's like
really
3 verses, which is why I isolated it as its own chapter, just to show how wacky it is.
Yeah.
Because you can read it in the normal reading and you just kind of skim by it. It's like
Right.
those ellipses in The Great Gatsby when Nick sleeps with that guy, maybe.
But I think
you
that
kind of just go right by and you're like, wait, what?
But what it left me with is all the allusions to the Genesis stories. I mean,
Yeah.
that was such an obvious allusion to the Yisrael, about to meet Esav, but all of a sudden God comes down and tries to kill him.
Yeah.
And then he changes his name, which is usually what goes on with circumcision.
It's interesting that you would say that too, because it's almost as though, I mean, if you don't believe that this is a single author in the work of some redactors and many authors, it's kind of like they were like, oh crap, like we also had that covenant with the circumcision. Let's get that in here somewhere.
Yeah, no, it's
They
very
just
much like
jammed it
it's
in.
like Les Miserables, where they kind of have those recurring songs, like how many times in Les Miserables is like na 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 na,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, let's do that song again, and like also Moshe by the well, where finding his wife by the
Right,
well,
like
that happened like
Eliezer or
3
the
times in
slave
Genesis,
and
right?
Jacob. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like I mean, just so many of
But
these.
where else are you gonna meet?
Right,
Mos
exactly. The
Eisley?
well is just the where to go. I
Yeah.
mean, the well is like the Tinder of
That's the
that
place
time.
to be.
People are just the well.
The well. Where'd you meet the well? Where else?
Right, and
Yeah.
yes. And people are there. Can you imagine, like, sending to the left, to the right, to the left?
No, dunk. Draw.
Yeah, so I just a lot of these really kind of familiar stories and tropes and literal kind of narrative that just keep on that's repeated here for and seemingly repeated almost for no reason, because it
Yeah.
doesn't. I mean, what is included and what is not included in the story is really interesting.
Yeah.
I understand why there would need to be a Torah Shabal Peh,
There was a big shift in my understanding of this stuff when I realized, oh, Rashi is explaining the mistakes.
could be. I mean,
Or in a way, like, a lot of the commentary is explaining, like, even in that, there are some pronouns that it's just really unclear who they're referring to. And there's a lot of, even in this translation entirely, there are a lot of weird pronouns, and the commentators are quick to jump in and be like, he is talking about Moshe. Because otherwise you can't really read it.
I mean, it is difficult.
There's stuff that I'm going to get to much later on where I see it in English translations, and they just basically use the rabbinic interpretation of it, because the Hebrew is just so weird and metaphoric and doesn't make any sense that it never even shows up in the English. Anyway, one of the things that I do like about this now that we're starting is that it feels like there's more of a civilization than Genesis. Like Genesis felt very much like a fairy tale, like storybooks, but now we have a massive nation of slaves, and we have a country with a monarch. Even like the Egypt in the end of Genesis that Joseph goes to feels like 2 rooms. This feels like a real country in a way.
And even like Moses leaves and goes to Midian, and there's a hotel. Somebody was running a business for the first time in a Bible. Mm-hmm. It's interesting to me that it's starting to feel like the place feels a little bit more real than it used to. The other thing is, I did look up. I didn't include it in this because I wanted to seem as strange as possible. But this is pretty strange too. The rabbinic understanding of what happens at the hotel is that because Moses has not circumcised his son, God attacks him with a snake, and the snake starts eating Moses from the feet up. And what happens is he's at about the waist, and at that point Zipporah takes the flint and circumcises his son, and then the snake slithers away and leaves him be.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's very crazy.
Very like Harry Potter.
Yes, it's God is a parcel tongue. If you want to stay after, we're going to have a conversation. I'd like to hear what your divrei Torah are. If anybody here has a single word that they can sum up what we read into, I'd love to hear it. Mordechai, where can people find you on the internet?
Go to jqyouth.org. That's just JQY is the organization's name, and jqyouth.org. All the information about JQ Youth. If you know any friends from the Orthodox world who may be LGBT, no matter what age they are, there are resources on jqyouth.org that may be really helpful to them. You'll find out about our programming. Also, we have a lot of programming that is open to allies and straight people and queer people and questioning people and so you don't feel like you don't have to be LGBT to go to all of our programming. We have really, really wonderful holiday parties. They're like, no one can do like a fabulous sukkah party the way that LGBT people can. I mean, it's true. I mean, come on. It's a party in a hut. Fabulous.
What about
right, and so it's and we have a Purim party and we have a Hanukkah party, and all these things are open. All these parties are open to everyone.
I'm going to apologize in advance for this. Is the Hanukkah party
flaming? Stupid. Yeah.
But so sorry.
But I think that in general, like I come from the point of view that sometimes LGBT people are all about kind of, well, what can we get from Judaism? We want access to Judaism, and I do feel that we can also offer a lot, because there is kind of, without going to too much stereotypes, there's a gay aesthetic. We're pretty amazing. I mean, go find a wedding dress designer who's not gay. I mean, come on. So we have a lot to give, and we have a lot to kind of, I think, add to Judaism. And when you come to our parties, you will see how much we can take these wonderful parties and really build upon them and make them really special. So I really do recommend getting involved, whether you are LGBTQ or straight, and jqyouth.org.
Awesome. So you can find the podcast on Facebook. At Facebook, just search for the fan page. Twitter at OMGWTFBIBLE. There's a Tumblr. The website is OMGWTFBIBLE.com. Please listen to us on Stitcher, iTunes, all podcast apps. If you like the show, share it. Excuse me, come to a live show. That was disgusting.
Wow.
Yeah. I finally had my whiskey. If you like the show, share it. Please come to a live show. We're in New York. We're going to be in Philly soon. We're going to be in the United Kingdom. We're talking about doing a show in D.C. in February. We're going to be at least 3 places on the East Coast. And please rate and review us on iTunes, because it really, really helps. If you want to say something to me or tell me how wrong my translation is, my email address is omgwtfbible@gmail.com. Again, thank you, John. Thank you, Wendy Chin, for making the flyers. Thank you, Beauty Bar, for hosting us. Thank you, Mordechai, for reading so much. Thank you for being here, and thank you for listening. Please join us next month at Beauty Bar on 14th Street on September 22nd. Why Love will be here to read Parshat Va'era, the next section of this book. And make sure to listen, because next time in the Bible,
plagues.